Welcome, everyone. We're on our next episode of Guiding You Forward, and our guests really don't need an introduction. We've got Tiger and Bear Bachmeier with us. I mean, from California, from BYU football. What other ways should we introduce the two of you?
I think you hit it on the spot. I don't know.
I'm Tiger Bachmeier. I'm at the Y studying business. I'm in the MBA program, and I'm a receiver, punt returner on the football team.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm Bear Bachmeier. I'm also on I'm not doing my MBA, but I'm on a business track and play quarterback.
Awesome. And what does normal look like right now? You guys are in spring training, is that right?
Yes.
So what's your typical day?
Yeah, we just hit spring football, so we're still students. So throughout the morning, we're obviously doing classes, and then from 1:30 to probably like 5:36-ish, we're in the facility watching film, and then practicing and stuff like that. So yeah, and then after we leave the facility, we're just doing homework and doing podcasts, I guess, and then going to sleep.
I love it. That's awesome. Looking back a year ago, what's one thing that you would say, oh, I'm better at this today than I was a year ago?
I mean, me, like, personally, I this isn't really football like specific, but it was just, like we both play the guitar, and I guess I'm getting better at the guitar. So I don't know. I guess I've seen improvements in that.
That's awesome.
from last year.
I love that. Tiger, what about you?
Is it probably just communication with family and being further away from them, that being more of a priority?
Absolutely. Yeah. What are some of the ways that you stay in touch? Because your family's not here, right?
Yeah, this is the first place I've been where I haven't had a family member, I mean, in the same state or even remotely close by. And so we've, I had a friend's wife's family out here who I got introduced to, and so Sunday dinners have happened there at the Clark family, and that's been like a family away from home, if you will. And
absolutely.
Then they have a kid on a mission, and so they're having an email thread for us, and like we got thrown on the email list, and it kind of feels like that with my family sometimes. It's like some weeks there's like your P day on a Monday, and it feels like that's all the time you talk to them. But then there's other weeks where we're FaceTiming every single day, and I would say FaceTime is probably the biggest communication way. We have a group chat. Hank's always throwing in pictures of Bronco on there, and then we'll get responses in from that. Buck will have basketball games, and we'll send clips of that, and then the basketball season just ended, so we throw in some of his baseball clips or just the baseball score. And then people would chime in from that. But it was also just my dad, my grandma's birthday, a few days apart. And so we did a big FaceTime happy birthday song and cake.
Oh, that's awesome.
Opening presents and all over FaceTime. So it kind of feels like COVID, like honestly, for some of that stuff. But my mom was up here a few weeks ago and gets up when she can.
Yeah.
But it's not super hard, but it's meaningful. And you have to make the time meaningful when you do that.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Switching gears a little bit, right? We want to understand what your experience has been now playing football for two different universities, right? Or at least practicing football at two different universities, right? So you're both at Stanford. You came to Provo. What's been the biggest difference for you both in daily life and then obviously football culture? What does that look like?
I mean, to point out the obvious, it's less of a secular place. So just simple prayers every day in class and prayers before team meetings. Like that was, we'd pray at Stanford before meetings, but just out of class. You don't really talk about the gospel. And so that's, obviously one of the biggest differences. And I like being in this environment a little bit more in that case. And it makes some conversation, like when we try to talk about like religion in other places, it's like you have to be in the time and a place for that. Whereas here, this is the time and place for it. And so it's just two different dynamics that I've been a part of. So it's been definitely interesting.
Yeah.
But I like to think of Provo as a little bit more of my hometown, Marietta, because it's backed into the valley. There's not high-rise buildings, a lot of people, but it's not packed, and there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, I love that. Anything you would add to that, Bear?
Yeah, I'd say I never played a season at Stanford, but I would say just from going to games and watching Tiger play at Stanford, I definitely think the pridefulness from the fans is different. I mean, I don't think there's anything like Cougar Nation, and so shout out Cougar Nation and just the love that they have. I think that's a big discrepancy between Stanford and BYU.
Yeah, that's awesome. What surprised you most about the commitment at BYU?
Yeah, I think that's a multifaceted question. Like because I think from solely like a football perspective, I mean, everybody's committed. Like, and worldwide. I mean, like, just because the church is obviously prominent in North America, but then you go to South America and kind of everywhere. So I think just everybody's committed from that standpoint. I mean, even when we go to the East Coast, like the visitor side is just packed full of blue.
Yeah, it's been like that ECU game. We were walking out. There's a little bit of a gate that we walked out onto the field, and you just like see people's hands, like just wanting to high five us because they're far away. And it's probably the only time that a lot of them were going to be able to see a BYU game. And given that the other sports don't get out there as often either, that was probably a while since we had been out there. But that was awesome to see that we were playing in the middle of North Carolina, and there were a bunch of fans out there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
I want to talk a little bit about Lavelle Edwards Stadium too. That place has a vibe, I feel like, of its own. If you want to think about maybe your first oh wow moment as being part of that Cougar Nation.
Yeah, I'll start. Like, I never when I was getting recruited in high school, I never even visited Provo or came up for a game like coming out of high school. Like my first game, like seeing Cougar Nation in LES was my first start at Portland State, and it was just, you try not to get nervous, but it's just, when it's your first start and there's just, it was a sold out crowd, and it was just like you either just look in the stands and it's all blue, and it's like wow, this is just, this is college football, you know, and I think that was just a great moment for me, and just a pretty surreal kind of deal, and it's like how can you, like, how much blue, like if you just had to count, it was just a bunch of blue, and so it was just crazy.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, so Stanford, I think within the last year recently hit their peak of number of student fans at the game, and it was like 8,000. And just comparing that to the 60,000 fans that are in the stadium, 65,000 that are in the stadium, 67 for that first game. But simply seeing a full stadium is something I hadn't really seen before.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had played in Clemson Stadium, and that was an experience in and of itself. But just seeing the wave of blue, turbulence, third and fourth quarter Cosmo, it was, can't really explain it. You just got to be there.
Yeah.
And especially being down on the field, and then just looking up and seeing the drones spelling out BYU. It's really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I also have to comment. I think one of the mission statement at BYU is to be of service, and I really found it very interesting. Like one day I was just kind of scrolling on Twitter, and we were playing Texas Tech, but Cougar Nation and the fans, there was something that happened with the Texas Tech fan, and like they literally started a GoFundMe and just like the support and the service of, even just like $1 or $5 here. I just fell in love with that culture and just like being of service to others, and I just thought that was, that kind of event and just the support that Cougar Nation gave, it's just the epitome of what BYU preaches, like what Kalani preaches, and yeah, it's just a very special place to be, and we're both so grateful to be here.
I love that. What is one thing that BYU's program does that you wish maybe other programs would adopt?
Our mission statement, hungry and humble. Keep chasing your dreams, take on your achievements, but be humble about it. Give back to the people in your path. And Kalani always talks about how his path was shaped by a football player coming and visiting his school and then telling him he could do it, and just really encouraging him, and then seeing his path like be where it's at now. And I think that it's something that he's has a lot of humility about because he lived it, is here, and then is continuing to preach that to us. So like directly football related, I think that's a good mission statement just to push out for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah. Anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I guess. We have this deal that goes on every Thursday after practice, and we call it a True Blue Hero. And so it's a local, like if it's a local kid going through a battle, whether it's like cancer or just like some diagnosis that they got. We or BYU like the football team flies him and his family, him or her, his and their family up, and we all sit down and we give them gifts, and it's just a special moment, just like giving back and like making this little kid's day, and like we always point out that, you know, whatever we go through, like even if like we're working out and we're sweating and working hard or whatever, like nothing that we do amounts to like what they're going through. And so just giving back to them and just seeing them light up, it's very special, and just like makes your heart just like, it just makes you feel good, like, and it's special.
I love that.
And there's something about just the environment here makes it really open to be able to come and ask for help and just for that to be a part of the culture. I think one example of that is one of the True Blue Heroes that we had. I just randomly was eating at Edna's in Provo, and like the daughter of one of the True Blue Heroes came up and like kind of started to break down and said thank you so much for the True Blue that you did on Wednesday. And then we ended up getting connected at another time, and we like she set it up so we visited a special needs school and just did service there, and it was really cool to see that happen. And another example of that is one of the students at Orem High School was going through some hardship, and so the school put on a fundraiser, a raffle fundraiser. One of the things that they raffled off was Bear and I did a lunch with the family who won. But the way that happened is one of the students from Orem High was like looking around the mall, and then like saw us, ran up to us and said like please, would you be able to set up something like that? And like, of course we said yes. And so it's super cool to see that like people aren't shy to ask for service or to give service, and it just kind of comes around full circle.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned Coach Kalani. If you had to describe...
It'd be hard to like go through an interview without mentioning him.
It would be, right? But if you had to describe playing for Kalani Sitake to someone that's never met him before, how would you describe that? What is that like?
I mean,
like a crazy uncle who like shows up and just like starts wrestling with you and then immediately make friends with. That's kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah, no, an uncle is like is a good way to describe it. He's just the uncle that he's just like really cool. Like you always just want to be around that cool uncle. And like when you make a mistake, it's like he's not gonna be like everybody's gonna be hard on you, but it's not like he's gonna like tear you down or anything like that. It's positive encouragement and just reinforcing that, you know, we've earned the right to be on BYU and to play at Les. And so, he's just that cool uncle that just encourages you all the time just to play your best and just have fun with it.
I love it. When you think about last season, and this could be at Les, it could be at other stadiums too, what was the loudest moment that you remember being like, holy cow, this is crazy? There
was a ton. I think that the biggest one that sticks out to me was the Arizona game, and think that the way I would measure this is just by the sheer amount of chills that I got versus the decibel value. And so going down and scoring in the fourth quarter, the ball, wherever it was placed, that's where our fans were in the corner. And so it was an exciting moment, but everyone was up on their feet and screaming as loud as they could. And just going down, you could feel the presence of everyone. And maybe it wasn't like by number, because there wasn't actually a ton of fans in the stadium, like even on Arizona side, but just the amount of passion that was put into that moment, I think gave me chills.
That's awesome. How about you, Bear?
Yeah, every fourth quarter, the transition from the third to fourth quarter, the turbulence. Yeah, that's when it gets rocking and it gets really loud for sure.
Yeah. What's it like knowing the two of you are going to see Stanford again, right? After being there at some point. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it happens in the pros, happens in college all the time, but probably one of the most awkward situations that you can walk into. And I want to say that it's not necessarily like it happens that often, given the transfer portal area, the NIL area, era. So it was awkward, but it was cool, and I think I had a lot of respect, going both ways. I have a lot of memories from the game, but my most favorite memory was Coach Reich after the game. Usually the coaches go together to shake hands, but Coach Reich came straight to me and shook my hand and said, like, I love you, good job, like I'm rooting for you, good job, like excited to see how the season goes for you guys. And so I think that was such a good move and put even more respect than I have for him, like more than the respect I already had for him. So it was awesome.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Bear?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little weird. I think, I mean, obviously I was there for a short duration, but I formed some great relationships with some of the guys. And so, yeah, it was weird, but it was definitely cool playing against them and just seeing them again. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't even mention my best friends are on the team.
Yeah.
So getting to play them. I
Absolutely.
could talk with them still today. And it was super cool. We got to take a picture together, took a few videos. Saw him before the game, saw him after the game. My coaches came up to me. And so it was really cool to see that our relationships stood above football.
Yeah.
And so it was a really cool experience.
Yeah. Speaking of your time at Stanford, how does one go to Stanford, graduate in 2.5 years with a degree, and also play football? Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Can you give us any tips on how to maximize our time? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. It doesn't happen during football season. I'll say that. Sure. You're so busy with football that I wouldn't even think about doing that during the season. If season was year round, I know basketball spans Stanford's a quarter system, so basketball spans winter and spring. So it was actually good that football just happened in the fall, and so I had 2/3 of my time toward classes outside of football season. So I was able to really load up, and I took the degree's 180 units. I spent 8 quarters there, so I took 20 units every quarter. But in the season, like, they were, I guess you could say, easier classes, but definitely
you were able to pull back.
Definitely the bulk of my classes were in those winter and spring moments, or I would just try to self-study the material so that I wouldn't have to go to class during the season, and then I could just do well on tests or have a head start and everything. So I would have some of my friends who had taken the classes before download the lectures sometimes, and there was 1 or 2 classes that I watched in the summer prior to the fall. And so I had already gone through the lecture material, but the class was only taught in fall, so I had to take the test. I had to do everything in the fall, and go through the homework assignments. And so like that was one way I prepared for the fall. And you're just a regular student in the winter and spring and summer quarters. So that was still tough, but it's football. Football during those quarters isn't very crazy. Obviously, you have spring ball, which is crazy. That's a tougher time, but it's definitely not as hectic as the fall. So it took a lot of grit. But I think one thing my dad kind of pushed me through is like, hey, you're doing it. Like, don't pull back, and keep going for it. So I found out that I could graduate on that 2 2/3 year mark about a year prior, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to do it, and it just kind of worked out. I got into the master's program there, and so the decision also was, do I want to start taking master's classes in that third year, or do I want to like confirm my undergrad? And so with everything in the coaching situation that went on, I decided to confirm my undergrad and then take a leave of absence for my master's there. So it's pretty cool. I can potentially go back if I want to and finish out that master's after this MBA. So there's a lot going on in that space, but that was a really, really, really fun time. And I think, like I said, I made a lot of relationships on the football field and then off the field. So something interesting that Stanford is you don't have a athlete roommate. So I walk in the first day as just like a random Indian kid, who ended up becoming my best friend, and came up to, I think the UCF game this year, and drove up with a few other friends, did that. And so it was really cool to see those relationships again, like extend beyond school, extend beyond football, and really just was really, really good experience.
Yeah. Bear, any thoughts from you on balancing being a student athlete?
Yeah. Just do your work. Go to class and do your work. No, I think, I mean, like growing up, it was always just chaos and it was just always hectic. But we always found a way to always do our homework. And it was kind of just a standard growing up in our house. Like my mom has a notification if our grade drops below an A-, then she gets a notification and she's like, get your grade up or whatever. But it was kind of just that standard. And I don't know, we always just kind of naturally just found time to do our homework. And I don't really have a tip, just kind of do it and put your phone down and go to class.
Put your phone down and go to class. I love it. That's great.
Funny. That's funny. Well, it's funny that he says that, because the one memory that my dad always brings up was like him telling us, hey, like, stop reading a book, we're going outside to play. And he always likes to bring that up just because like where we're at now. So that's like one of my favorite memories just to kind of bring up.
That's awesome. So
No,
quit reading. We got to go outside.
No, yeah, that's funny because my dad, well, because we would always do like front yard, like pick up basketball or something like that. But
okay.
I mean, even like when we were doing our homework, it was funny because he'd just be like, "Hey, like, what do you like? Let's go play." And from that point of view, like my dad was a prodigy in that sense, like athletic, like from an athletic standpoint, he always wanted us to go play outside. So we always just found time to do our homework, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, let's talk about this. Where did you grow up, and maybe what was the earliest sign that football was going to be a big deal?
So we grew up in Southern California. We grew up in the foothills of Lake Elsinore, a community. It's called Rancho Capistrano. But yeah, we grew up and in the foothills, kind of secluded from kind of everything, and it was kind of just our siblings and our parents. But yeah, I guess growing up, we played baseball, basketball, and football, and Tiger did a bunch of other stuff too. But watching our oldest brother kind of go through his process, and he also played college football, and he's playing in the UFL now. So just kind of watching him do that, and we kind of always just knew like we were on this different path, like so we always worked hard, and yeah, I guess just like me growing up, like watching Tiger, I have an older sister as well, and Hank, like I just kind of blindly copied their work ethic and their characteristics, and I just kind of followed in their path of competing to be the best version of yourself. And I kind of just knew that there's something bright in the future.
Yeah, getting to see Hank's first scholarship offer, and like us being super excited about that, and we didn't really know what it meant, but just to hear like, hey, your college has been paid for, you're gonna play football, in a Power 5. I mean, at that time, but like it opened a lot more doors. What seemed like a lot more doors for us, and it felt like when the 4-minute mile was broken, and then everyone started to break it, and it was more like, hey, he did it, I can do it too. And so, yeah, like after freshman year, we started to get scholarship offers, and that's kind of, I would say maybe like a year or two before that, is when I really felt like I was gonna be pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's clear that your family, you had mentioned this with your dad and your mom, they value academics and athletics, right? So what did your parents emphasize most? Was it your dad that wanted sports? Your mom wanted academics? Is that what I'm hearing? Or was it both, really?
I don't really know. For me, my mom, my dad had visited Stanford. I think I was 7, and he had said like, "Hey, this is where you're gonna go to school," and like my mom kept telling me that like the whole time growing up. So I heard that for like 10 years, and then I ended up getting a scholarship offer there, and I was like, "What the heck?" And so it was, academics were always pushed on, and it was kind of like if you in the Japanese culture, it's something like you don't really want to be noticed if you're out of line. And so it was one of those things where like we didn't really have to talk about it. My mom didn't want to have to talk about it. But like if you got out of line and out of place, like she kind of like put you back in. So I think they were both on board with that. My dad's super intellectual, and uncles did really well, like on the SAT and everything. And my dad's like just always talking about that. And even if he's not, I don't really remember my dad specifically saying like, "Hey, your grade's terrible. Like, you got to get it up." It's normally just been like, "Hey, your uncle's pretty good at math." Like asking for help. And oddly, it hasn't been like a telling. It's been like a showing, and through osmosis, if you will, of him. Where my mom more so was like, "Hey, I have a notification. You have like a 93. Like, step it up," and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess it's been pretty cool. I actually had a lady ask me the other day if she could get connected to my mom so she can ask her for some advice. And I was like,
yeah.
What?
I think, we should have brought your mom and dad in today too, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
So yeah, I'd love to hear that. I think I'm gonna probably watch this. So thank you, Mom and Dad. Love you guys.
Yeah. Anything you would add to that, Bear?
Yeah, I think I just think in every aspect of life, my parents always challenge us to be the best person that we can be, and the best at like just competing to be the best that we can be. And yeah, anytime, like Tiger used the analogy, like anytime we just got out of line, or just like anything, like my mom had the wooden spoon, like just I don't know. I think it was like me just growing up again, just having older siblings that I could just again blindly copy and just like be embedded in that culture. Like it was just a standard to have great grades. It was just standard to want to compete. It was a standard to just be a good person. And it's a testament to how my parents raised us, but it's a testament to my older siblings. And then I also have a younger brother who, like me personally, I just want to be the best role model for him. So I just how I grew up and just what I grew up in kind of instilled kind of all those attributes and in me.
I love that. So, Bear, this question's for you because you're younger, right? You've got the other siblings. Who would you say is the most competitive sibling, and maybe why? With a good example.
I mean, I think for football wise, it's me and Hank always kind of like we're probably the most competitive with each other. And it's kind of because Tiger athletically was always more advanced than me, so I'd kind of always lose to him in a lot of like if we were like sprinting or something like that. Like he's always the fastest, but me and Hank were always kind of similar. And so like when we got to a certain age where like I could train with them, I was like, it was always kind of like me and Hank. Like we would always be competing, like who's the fastest, like one-on-one basketball. Like we'd always just could be competing. And then when we would go out to a field and throw, because he also plays quarterback, it was like who can throw the best spiral. And so me and him were always competitive in that sense. Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably Hank to answer that question.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Tiger? Who's the most competitive sibling?
Yeah. I'm probably like Ella's up there.
Well, let me actually chime in, because the question is who's the most competitive sibling. It's me. Like I'm the most competitive. I mean, I want to win at everything. I was given that example because me and Hank usually compete in a lot of things, but yeah, I mean, I think I am, like, I always want to win. But
Yeah,
sorry.
it's probably my sister, probably just like most athletically gifted and competitive out of all of us. So I'll give it to her.
I love that. So when we look at your family dynamic, you talk about having, good communication with FaceTime. Is there like a group chat that's football only?
Yeah, we have a big family group chat that we call all the time, and we have like a known just like brother group chat that we call all the time. And if we happen to talk about football, we're talking about football, but it's usually just about. I mean, a lot of aspects of our life is surrounded by football, so like a lot of the time we are talking about football, and we don't get like fried out from football, and so talking about football is nice. And but yeah, usually we're just talking about just life and just kind of how everybody's day is doing. But if we happen to talk about football, because that's what we're doing, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's funny. It's usually my grandma like sending the ESPN clips or something of football. But other texts, we just kind of send memes in the group chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. As brothers playing on the same team, when you line up, are you brothers first or are you teammates first? What's that dynamic like?
I mean, brothers. Our whole dynamic of the team is everyone's brother.
Yeah.
So I think anybody on the team would say, hey, like, we're brothers before teammates, to that specific question in the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that BYU brotherhood like, being a part of that team?
Yeah, I think like for me, it's just like you're not like you're obviously never really playing just for yourself. Like you're always playing for something bigger. And I think like when I look to my right or I look to my left, and I see like Bruce Mitchell like putting his hand in the dirt, and he's getting hit every play. And I see somebody else dealing with an injury. It's like, man, like you're going to war with these guys. And I just think that just like brotherhood and just how much like love you have for one another. It's a special bond, and so it just encourages yourself and just like just to fight even harder.
Yeah, I love that. Tiger, as a wide receiver though, and returner, right? What makes a QB easy?
Like trusting that he's gonna throw a good ball to the place that you're gonna be.
Yeah.
And I think that's about as simple as you can put it. And it makes a lot of quarterbacks really easy to trust, just because you put in so many reps and so much time just to be like, hey, be at this spot, and I'll have a ball there, like almost like, hey, we're gonna meet up later, like this is the spot, see you there, and kind of trust it from there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that word, trust. So Bear, what makes a receiver trustworthy in big moments?
Just doing your job and catching the ball.
Okay.
Yeah, just simple. Yeah.
Yeah, very simple. What's the funniest sibling moment that you two have had on the field?
On the field here?
Or on the sideline, right? Either way. What are your thoughts?
I mean, there's a lot. We sit, so the quarterbacks are here, and then it's like running backs, tight ends, receivers. And so like sometimes I'll just walk over and sit down, and I mean, we're like 20 feet away from each other, but then like for us to talk to each other, like I have to sit down. But like there's cool moments where you just kind of look up in the stands together, or we'll look up in the stands and my parents sit behind us, and just look at them, or like just cracking simple jokes. There's a lot of small moments like that.
Yeah, there's no specific moment that I can really like harp on, but we're a big like movie quote or like a YouTube like skit quote kind of deal. Like if something happens on the field and it's like we say like some dumb quote from a movie or like a Key and Peele skit or something like that. Like I just like look at him and like it's just funny. I don't know. Just yeah, you can't really, not a lot of specificity in that, but it's just not a specific moment, but just like some stuff like that happens.
Yeah. So how would the two of you describe playing football with each other at this level?
It's awesome. It's cool. I don't know. Nobody else really has a brother. Like not a lot of people have a brother in college football to play with. But it's like playing football or basketball in the front yard. Like that's really all it comes down to. And that's what it feels like a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's just awesome. I mean, awesome is just a great word to describe it, in my opinion. Like, because we didn't really play football together. It was always, I would always play up with him in like basketball and maybe even baseball. But like I just remember playing basketball with him, and we finally got like a full season in high school together, and I was like, man, like I just hope I can play with him in college, and it's just a dream come true, and it's just been so awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Barry, you were named the starter as a true freshman, right? This isn't new news to you. What did that responsibility feel like going into the season last year and really that week of game one?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of responsibility, but there wasn't a lot of like high expectation. It was kind of just there's a true freshman out there, and I was so like in my head I was just like, I'm just gonna go out and play, and I think that's how you're supposed to play a game that you love. And so yeah, there wasn't really a lot of pressure. So I mean, there was obviously a lot of responsibility, and I knew we had a great team to accomplish what we did. But I mean, we even left a lot on the table. So yeah, I mean, it was a great it was a great honor and just a great opportunity to kind of just take it and go run with it.
Yeah. And what have you learned, right, over this last season about leadership? You know, because you're thrown into this role, you're leading guys that are older than you, right, that have more years under their belt. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah,
I think I learned that there's multiple ways to lead, and obviously you can lead by example, you can lead verbally, but it's also getting to know your guys to like on how to approach them, because I mean, some guys you can, chew them out, but then there's other guys that like just like positive encouragement, like what you did wrong, and so just having that positive encouragement to then it's like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna do it better, just because of that positive encouragement. I'm not gonna be thinking in the back of my mind like, oh, if I don't do this deal right, then I'm gonna get punished or whatever. So I think there's different ways to approach people and just to get a gauge on them, and I think that's a step in the leadership realm for me.
Yeah, I love that. I want to talk a little bit more about guitar. We're going to totally switch gears. You mentioned that you're way better now at playing guitar, but you both play, right? So when did that start, and what does that do for you?
When I was 13, I want to say it's the first time I picked up a guitar. Uncle had visited, left the guitar. He played a few songs, left the guitar, and then I picked it up for a day or two and kind of put it away. And then he visited again, played guitar again, got interested. So I was 14 or 15 at that time. I took classical lessons for like a month at a old folks home, off of like a random like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace advertisement that my mom saw. So we showed up. I got trained for a little bit, so I learned to read a little bit of music, and then from there it's kind of self-taught, and then learned songs, started playing. We went to Minnesota. The uncle this kind of story's kind of going all over the place. But my uncle Donald from Minnesota was an uncle who had left us a guitar, but we started visiting him in Minnesota around that time as well. And he would play. My cousin could play. My cousin's making music now, Sir James on Spotify. But they always just loved music and always told us stories about just the fun that they had. And he said had more fun playing music than playing football for himself. And he won the national championship at St. John's, I think like 100 years ago or something. But being around in Minnesota and just playing guitar for the family and playing songs we love was really cool. So I think around 15 or 16, Bear started to play. So I gave him like 3 minutes of lessons, and then kind of let him go from there. And then he's kind of self-taught himself. And I was still learning as we're going on, but it was fun. And it's been cool just to play at the old folks' homes or play with friends. And it's good. This is a really good hobby. And I think that later in life, my plan was always just like be good enough so we could keep playing and have it as like a 60-year hobby and be able to play later in life.
Yeah. Something you can do. Yeah. Later on. What are your thoughts on guitar, Bear?
Yeah, I think just a great hobby. Again, just to kind of just rewind, and obviously we're football all the time, football in school all the time, and just something to do to get your mind off everything. And and it's also we both just like to play and sing, and so it's just a great hobby and just something just to get away.
I love that. What do you like to do aside from guitar, right? We know you love that, but no football, no guitar. How are you all spending your time? What does that look like?
A movie club.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put together a movie club with Ciale on our team and his family, and we just spent a lot of time watching movies. I think at the Orem Cinemark, every once in a while they do a movie that hasn't been released yet, but they do it before it hasn't been released. So like we've done that a few times, and we end up seeing pretty much all the movies in theaters just because it ends up being pretty cheap around here if you go on like the weekdays.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time doing that.
That's awesome. How about you, Bear?
Yeah, we also do a lot of board games. There's a lot of the guys on the team. I mean, I guess not a lot, but they call it the fun house. There's like 6 guys on the team, and we go over there and just like play Catan and just a bunch of board games. So it's fun.
That's awesome. Any other interests aside from movies, board games that you guys want to touch on that you're like, okay, this is what we do as well to unwind?
I'm getting my pilot's license. So
okay, so there's that adrenaline coming back maybe a little bit. Yeah, okay.
So I just soloed, which is basically like you're in the plane by yourself.
Okay.
And like that was a cool experience. It started to rain before it happened. And the air traffic controller is talking to you before it's happening. And my plan is to go and do 3 touch and goes. So just 3 circles around the pattern, land, go up, land, stop. And that's my plan. And then I like get up to the cockpit, and then I make the first call, and I was like, can I have clearance to take off on the runway? And then he says, okay, go to runway 18. And then I completely just like did not hear him. So I said, did you say 18? And then he said, yeah. So I start to go, and then my family's here and my instructor, and I start to take a right to go to the runway 18 over here. And then like 20 seconds later, he says, well, actually I changed my mind. I'm gonna have you go to 31. So then I do a circle. And so like to them, it probably looks like I have no idea what I'm doing. So I do a circle, and it's like I turned the wrong way. And then I went and I started, but then it started to rain when that happened. And so there's probably a few signals of like, hey, like maybe you should stop. But like the weather was nice enough for it. But I guess my first that was like my first time flying in the rain, and then it just happened to be like I was in the plane by myself while it was raining. So biggest thing is just stay calm, and you practice emergency procedures so you get used to like pretending your engine is out, pretending you don't have a wing, just like stuff like that. So I did that, went around and landed and did it. And then the big thing my instructor was telling me, it's an old World War II thing, to cut your shirt after your solo. So like I got out of the plane, we cut my shirt and wrote on it. So it was cool.
That's awesome.
I guess the story was like, since you can't really hear each other in the plane because it's super loud, and the pilot and the instructor were right here, like they would tug on your shirt to instruct the person flying the plane on what to do. So then it's like you get freedom by cutting your shirt because you don't need the tugs anymore to teach you.
That's
so
awesome.
That was little.
Well, congratulations. Yeah.
Been doing that. It's been really fun.
Any other thoughts you have, Bear, on things you like to do?
No, I mean, I just like to chill and watch some YouTube or, I don't really fly planes or anything like that. So
That's okay. So at Mountain America, we're so excited to partner with you all, right? NIL is making this possible. Really, our focus is around guidance. So you guys recently had an opportunity to go and sit down with some of our financial guides, and wanted to just follow up from that. Like, what is maybe one thing that you learned after meeting with them that you're like, oh, that was maybe surprising?
It was taking a look at all of your budgets in little boxes and just seeing how much you're spending on everything, and not like anything was a super big surprise. But I mean, one of the things on there was like, are you eating out more than you're eating in? Or like, are you eating out more than you're grocery shopping? And so it's pretty simple for us during the week. But like Saturdays and Sundays, we don't always have all our meals prepared for us. So I guess like my budgeting was like going to the store and buying some ground beef and cooking that on Saturday, Sunday, and making that sacrifice. So
that's awesome. How about you, Bear?
Yeah, I think I just think Mountain America is such a great like incubator for success because we're very young, and fortunately we're able to make some money, and so I just very grateful for Mountain America. And I think one thing I took away from our talk was building credit, and obviously it's a cliche of just building credit, but I guess I never really fully realized how important it is to build your credit score and get your credit going, and so that was one thing I really took away from our conversation.
That's awesome. What's one habit you've started maybe that you feel like, oh, I'm going to keep that for life?
Yeah, well, when I do use my credit card now, I just I never really did, but I if I go get a milkshake or anything like that, like it's just I use my credit card and then I just pay it off really quick, and
Awesome.
Slowly but surely building that. So, yep.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. Use your credit card, pay it off. You heard it from Bear. Yeah. How about you, Tiger? Anything?
Also, just making sure you're putting some money aside, or most of your money aside, because you don't have too many expenses. It's a godsend that we don't have to pay for literally anything here. As far as like school and then food, because those are pretty much covered. So that's money that you can put aside for the future or the near future or for Bronco later on.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is one piece of advice that maybe you wish either your teammates, peers would know when it comes to finances?
Just find people in the space, because you can self-study, but it's not like most people are going to be passionate about finance. Like if you're not passionate about finance, but you got to find someone who can help mentor you through it. And so find someone at MacU, and find a lot more people. Like find someone at MacU, find someone outside of MacU, just to hear different perspectives and different opinions.
Yeah.
And hear as much as you can, and set aside time for that.
Yeah, I love that. I have a few just like BYU questions that I want to ask the two of you. So these ones should be pretty easy. Favorite BYU tradition? Bear, you get to go first.
Oh, I mean turbulence, the transition from the third to fourth quarter. I think. I mean they get into it. I mean they fly out like the dancer deals from literally like Hawaii and I mean probably some other islands too, and the fire dancers and out of just Cosmo's doing some flips or something like that, and the drones are going, and then the stadium's just rocking. So I think that's just really cool tradition.
Yeah.
The rivalry and that whole week leading up, the campouts for the student section. I think it's kind of sad that they have gotten the queue really good for the student section, because I would have wanted to see more people camping out before the games. But I think that's really cool and says a testament to our fans. Or I mean, maybe just a walk before the game is cool. Seeing people eat cougar tails, the Nike shoe, or the whoever has the best shoes before the game, and I think it's a really cool experience for the fans. And I mean that's what I've heard. Like, but it's cool to see that from the bottom.
Yeah. Royal or Navy?
I like the Royal.
Okay. Navy. Okay. Love it. What's your favorite food spot in Utah?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
There's an all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue place called Ombu that we've been to 3 times.
There's also Yummies.
It's really good. All-you-can-eat Korean barbecue place. That's probably my favorite.
I mean, this is like asking, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like food. So
You like it all.
I mean, if it's
That's
like,
fair.
what we're talking, like Thai places, I mean, Korean barbecue, like ramen spots. I don't know. I mean, let's just say Legends Grill at BYU.
There you go. I love it.
There's also Uncle Joe's. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. You were talking about like what's the definition of brotherhood? And the thing that had popped through my mind was like how much money can we try to spend on the company card without getting like flagged? Like go out to eat and like see how much we can eat like without getting flagged. So
That's awesome.
It's kind of funny. Like,
So yeah, food is brotherhood. Is that what you're saying? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's one teammate that everyone should be really excited about in 2026 outside of the two of you?
Hunter Clegg, because he's a dragon slayer. We do teams of 10, 100 guys on the team basically, and we kind of split off 10 teams of 10, and we just do events together, and you get points for doing well in the competitions, and so he's kind of been getting a lot of points for us. Awesome.
Anyone else come to mind?
Kyle Svarchuk. He's a guard, and he's a dog. So yep.
Awesome. I love it. Let's say the two of you, football was never part of your life or your family's lives growing up. What would you be doing if it weren't for football?
I mean, playing baseball. No, I mean, like, if aside from sports, like, again, the we always just wanted to be the best version of ourselves, and whatever endeavor that we wanted to pursue, I feel like we would just go do it. So I mean, like for me personally, like I'm fascinated with real estate, so maybe do something with that. But
yeah,
Awesome.
I don't think I would be doing anything drastically different. For me, most of the stuff that I see myself doing in the future, I'm doing in some portion now. Like I want to be a part of a few startups, and build a business, and I'm doing some of that now. I would still want to play guitar, would still want to have my pilot's license. And so in moderation, I'd probably just take my football time and put it there.
Yeah, that makes sense. If Cougar Nation could sit in on your week, right? So we're talking meetings, practice, maybe even class. What's one thing that would surprise them the most?
How clean our apartment is.
Okay, that's awesome. Congratulations.
No, it's not clean. That's our schedule's like structured in the way like we have class. We know we have to go to football practice, but like within that in between time and like after practice, it's like we don't even know what we're gonna do. So I think they'd just be surprised at the unstructuredness of our schedule. Like one day we might just be doing homework, but then another day we're like, oh, we get a call from CL and it's like, you guys want to watch a movie in 5 minutes? Oh, sure. Like, it's just like that spontaneous kind of deal that, I don't know, maybe they'd be surprised with that. Maybe they wouldn't. I don't know.
So this question's for both of you about each other. What is your brother's most underrated trait as a player?
I think his fierceness, like, kind of just walk out there and he's kind of like goofy, but like when Tiger steps in between the lines, it's like I'm not gonna. It's kind of like Tiger's like, I'm not gonna let this guy beat me. Like, if I'm running a route or if I'm gonna block you, I'm gonna defeat you. Like, I'm gonna beat you. And there's this funny story. We were playing UCF one time, and there was a flag on the perimeter from the ref, and receiver coach Fessy was yelling at our other receiver because that's who he thought what the flag was thrown on, and then all of a sudden the referee's like, number 19 from BYU or whatever, and Fessy's like, Tiger, and I was like, nah, man, like he's fierce, and he's just fierce, and he's just very competitive, and like he's not gonna lose to you. So yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably be that he can go play linebacker and probably be more successful than he is right now. And I think like just maybe other positions he could do well at, but I think specifically linebacker, had to stop before high school, and he chose quarterback, but could have been a good linebacker too.
Okay, so backup linebacker, maybe?
Yeah, if K-pop needs me in there, then so if anything happens to like the 20 linebackers that we have, yeah.
There you go. When we look at the 2026 season, if you could picture an amazing season, what are some of the traits? What does that look like?
Ooh, I think it would be coming out and starting fast in our away games, and I think that'll only lead to success. For all the games, it's pretty easy to come out when Cougar Nation's all riled up and able to put us on a quick start. And so being able to go into away places and do that, it's going to be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's not really thinking about an end result. I just think about when I look to the guy to my right that he's smiling and that he's having fun. And so, yeah, just after games, taking pictures with my family, just having a good time.
Yeah. If you could have the viewers of this know one thing about you when you're off the field, what would you want them to know?
Like, don't hesitate to say hi, I guess. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to just be able to take pictures and or just be at local restaurants and then get to talk to people and be able to just like break that barrier of being strangers because we're not, kind of thing. Yeah. And I think that's an easy one for me.
I love that. Last thing, when you hear guiding you forward, that's the name of our podcast, by the way. What does that phrase mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to propel yourself and again, be the best person you can be. And so, again, I just think that the support staff here at Mount America is just a great setup for success and guiding us forward and into who we want to be and put us in a good position fiscally.
Awesome.
Yeah. The analogy I have for this is a tour guide who is walking someone through campus with a group of people, and the way that they're doing it is like they already know the path, and so they're walking backwards and facing the crowd and facing the people and pointing out stuff and talking to them and giving them facts and in a flow state. And as they're walking forward, like they're turning back to be able to give their knowledge back to the crowd.
I love that. And really appreciate both of you and your time. Obviously, you've taken your time to come and meet with us and share your thoughts and knowledge with all of our viewers. And you've been great representatives of BYU and obviously the football team. So thank you. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Yeah, and thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both. And thanks to all of you for joining us as well. And we will see you on the next episode of Guiding You Forward.